Chapter 2, The Socialite. A woman is most dangerous to herself when she is desperate to be loved. Vanessa Evelyn. The Socialite. Adamant to heal and move on from the negative experiences with Jack, I threw myself into writing, manufacturing, inventing my yoga dolls, you name it, anything creative and inspiring. The excitement of my life, the deep sense of purpose in my work, and the many blessings I enjoyed still far outweighed the pain of those experiences. But abuse is sneaky, and it takes time to leave its mark. It's like chipping away at a concrete wall. With enough persistent force, it will eventually crumble. One beautiful sunny day in Southern California, while I was going about my day minding my own yoga-filled business, I received an email from Hampton's magazine asking me to call them to fact-check an article for an upcoming issue. I think to myself, amazing, maybe they're writing a piece about yoga trends or wellness in general. Nope, not even close. When I spoke to the editor, he had some questions about, quote, the founder of As I Am Yoga, Jill Monroe, end quote. I'm sorry, what? Who? I asked. The editor asked me to verify some facts about a woman, let's call her Jill, who was one of my private yoga clients in Los Angeles, meaning that I teach her yoga privately in her home versus a class setting at a studio or gym. The editor referred to her as, quote, the founder of As I Am Yoga, end quote, which was my company, but I was the only executive and the only employee at that time. There I was, hand in phone, completely baffled. I mean, borrowing ideas is one thing, but borrowing an entire company? That one was new to me. And keep in mind, I was still green at this time, looking at the world through rainbow-colored glasses. So I politely told the magazine editor they might want to double-check their source. His response? Jill herself was the source. Double whammy. Reality check, she's lying. Rainbow lens optimism, maybe it's just a mistake. Spoiler alert, it only gets more weird. First, a little backstory. Twice a week, I taught yoga to a group of women in Beverly Hills, at Rachel's house. It was an interesting mix of personalities, to say the least. Alongside Rachel, who was kind, innately competitive, and always up for some gossip, her husband, a super down-to-earth, funny sportscaster, also joined the sessions. Then there was Camilla, the wife of a famous actor, Heidi, a well-known TV actress and entrepreneur, and Lisa, my very first private client, whom I'd known for 15 years. A few others rotated in from time to time, keeping the group dynamic, but these were the main characters in this little yoga soap opera. Jill was a new addition to the group. She had recently relocated from New York City to Los Angeles with her husband, and they were in the process of house hunting. In the meantime, they were staying at a former U.S. president's Beverly Hills home, which was conveniently close to Rachel's place. Turns out, Jill's husband and the former president were very close friends. Jill quickly hired me for private yoga sessions, and this was around the time I got pulled deeper into the web of toxic gossip circulating among the women. When I casually asked Jill how she knew Rachel, she nonchalantly responded, I have no idea. She thinks we're best friends. I was even her maid of honor at her wedding, but honestly, I don't even know her. I mean, that's classic Beverly Hills, right? How is that even possible, I thought. It just sounded so absurd. Do these women have arranged friendships? Here was Rachel constantly acting like Jill was her best friend when Jill had just admitted she barely knew her. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Soon the same pattern started to unfold in our group sessions. They'd hug each other, gush over their supposed bestie status, and then, almost like clockwork, trash talk each other behind the scenes. It was utterly confusing. The fake camaraderie followed by biting gossip was so toxic that every time I left those sessions, I felt gross, like I needed to cleanse myself from all the negativity. It wasn't just exhausting. You can't help but wonder if they're doing the same thing behind your back, talking about you the way they talk about each other. So it plants this seed of distrust and paranoia that's hard to shake. Now, back to Jill telling Hampton's magazines that she's the founder of my company when I'd only taught her a handful of yoga sessions. Fast forward to the following week after I corrected the editor. There I am, setting up for a trunk show in Beverly Hills to showcase my As I Am clothing line. I've already spent a couple of hours making sure everything is just right. A rolling rack on one side, a side table with neatly folded tanks and accessories on the other. I'm feeling great, ready to rock, and several of my private clients had already confirmed they're planning to attend. This should have been my moment, but of course life had other plans. Suddenly, I see Jill show up. I wave excitedly when seeing her. She's not alone. She brought a whole entourage, a group of 6 other women to be exact. Amazing! How kind of her to bring friends, I think to myself. However, the energy was a little strange, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it right away until things took a turn. Jill's friends beelined from my rack of clothes and began touching the fabrics as if they'd just discovered silk for the first time. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. This was so fun. And then they began oohing and eyeing, practically swooning over the clothes. I mean, this is a designer and an entrepreneur's dream. The satisfaction was percolating. And then it happens. One of the women in the group turns to Jill and she says, "Jill, this is amazing. You're amazing." And the others chime in, showering Jill with compliments about her brilliant clothing line. While I'm standing right there, Jill even smiles at me sheepishly at that. At that point, I'm there right next to the rack, blinking in confusion like I've somehow wandered into some alternate universe. And meanwhile, Jill is soaking up the praise like she invented yoga herself. So I pulled her aside and I quietly, trying not to make a scene, "Jill," I say, "what's going on? Did you tell your friends that my activewear line is yours?" Jill looks at me and then she looks down towards the floor. She rolls her lips together and then completely seriously says, "You handled that so well, thank you. I'm just really insecure about moving to LA without having some kind of accomplishment to show for myself." I stare at her, still trying to piece together how we got here. "So you told your friends that my company, As I Am, was yours?" "Yeah," she says, as if it's the most casual thing in the world. "Do you think I could be part of As I Am with you? I'm really hardworking, I promise." Now, I am all for collaboration and helping people, but let's get one thing straight. Telling people you're the founder of someone else's company is not how you go about it. Who just casually adopts someone else's business as their own, like it's no big deal, and then tries to wiggle themselves in without proper due diligence and progressive conversations? High wealth, socialite women who have lost the value of hard work. That's who. Part of me was interested, as I was hoping to find a good partner to expand my business and brand, but I hardly knew her. I told her earnestly, "It really devalues all of my hard work when you tell people that my business is yours. Do you get that?" To which she responded in word and gesture as understanding and being apologetic. So I let it go. But I was still there, caught in the middle of the most awkward trunk show of my life, trying to process the fact that one of my own clients had not only hijacked my company's story and assumed my hard work and creativity, but had done so with such confidence that she even convinced a magazine to run with the story. This wasn't my world. This was not how I operated, so I just didn't understand the danger that I was in. So after the whole Jill taking credit for my company fiasco, you'd think things couldn't get more bizarre. But Jill, being Jill, had more tricks up her sleeve. In fact, in what felt like an attempt to smooth things over, or maybe just buy her way in with legitimacy, she asked if she could invest in my company. At this point, I was juggling confusion, frustration, a sprinkle of curiosity, a dappling of excitement. So I said, "Sure, let's talk." And the next thing I know, she's dropping just a little under $150,000 into my company. Given that her husband's a billionaire, it was not a lot to her, but it would definitely help to expand the product line. Now, we were compatible in our love for yoga, but incompatible in our work ethic. I build things from the ground up, sweat and tears from original innovation. She bought whatever she wanted and assumed all of the work and creativity that went into it. Admittedly, she was just in it for the appearance. Within 2 weeks of being partners and sharing a joint business bank account, Jill wrote a check for $23,000 to a PR powerhouse in New York City with the primary objective of, quote, getting herself on the cover of Town and Country magazine as the founder of As I Am Yoga, end quote. That's right. She invested in my company and then used that very money to rewrite the story where she was the star and founder. Talk about twisted ambition and blatant disregard. What followed were 10 months that only can be described as me babysitting a socialite who isn't used to building something from the ground up. How can one possibly find time to build a brand between Botox appointments, facials, massages, lunches, workouts, hikes, and therapy? It was both frustrating and exhausting. I think this is when I started to feel the seeds of becoming jaded. The rainbow-colored lenses I had worn for so many years had now become black and white. We had moments of alignment and hope, and she used her connections to sell some of our inventory and to host trunk shows, but there was simply an impasse as how to get the business operational without socialite problems. You can't ever say that I didn't try to make it work, though. One day, I brought Jill along to meet my dye house rep. An important meeting, mind you. So before we head over, Jill tells me, "Oh, by the way, I've got a dermatology appointment after this, so we can't take too long." No problem, I thought. We'll make it quick. Famous last words. We arrive at the dye house, and instead of discussing, dye colors or the dye process or even anything related to business, Jill spends the entire time talking to my rep about whether or not she should get a facelift. I wish that I were joking. She hijacked the meeting, turning it into a consultation on her future cosmetic procedures. I couldn't get a word in edgewise to steer back on track. And of course, by the time she's finished curbing her unbearable insecurities for the afternoon, she's now late for her dermatology appointment, and guess who gets blamed? Me, obviously, because clearly I was the one who held us up talking about facelifts during a business meeting. But the madness didn't stop there. The following week, I took Jill to my clothing sample maker to try on some new pieces for our upcoming collection. I'm in the zone, focusing on the important stuff, fit, fabric, things that actually matter. I slip into a new sports top and I turn to the mirror, checking out how the side seams are sitting. Meanwhile, a few feet away, Jill is sitting at a table, absolutely laser focused, but not on the collection. Oh, no. She's zeroed in on my chest, my breasts, in fact, practically in a trance. There it was. Same look of insecurity creeping over her face, the one that screams, "I feel less than you," even though she's trying to keep it together. You can probably guess what happened next. She breaks the silence with the inevitable, "Do you think I should get a boob job?" Classic Jill. "I'm in LA now. I guess I should get a boob job." She transgresses into another self-absorbed monologue. All the while, I'm trying to decide if I take 1/8 of an inch off the strap length. The entire time we're supposed to be talking business, she's stuck in some world of complete self-absorption. So there I was, trying to keep things professional while my, quote, business partner had a full-on existential crisis over cosmetic surgery again. I was starting to lose my patience. But then she said it, and I'll never, ever forget this. While gritting her teeth, unable to hold back her feelings, "My next lifetime, I'm coming back as you," she said. Now, this was just getting really uncomfortable. What the fuck kind of teenage nightmare did I step into? That comment really unsettled me. It's a strong statement. I cannot even imagine the internal agony she must have been feeling, living the life of a Stepford wife, married to a man she wasn't passionate about while keeping up appearances around the clock. Sure, it might look glamorous from the outside, but I promise you most of these women are miserable inside. And then I come along, free-spirited, beautiful, passionate, spiritual, creative, make my own schedule. I date whoever I want. She wanted my life, and that made her not only dangerous, but also made our partnership far more complicated. This behavior wasn't unusual for women like Jill in my experiences. I also used to teach private yoga sessions to the wife of one of the biggest A-list actors in the world, and she acted similarly. If I wore a sports top that showed a hint of my natural cleavage, she'd mumble comments about going too large with her breast implants, her gaze fixated on my chest with a deer in the headlights look. She couldn't even close her eyes during Shavasana, unable to let go of her internal dilemma. It made teaching a practice that's meant for presence and self-acceptance very, very challenging. It's not uncommon for the wives of rich and famous celebrities to avoid hiring staff who are more good-looking than they are, fearing that attractive employees might become a threat to their relationships. In these high-profile circles, insecurities run high, and even though I never approached my work or my presence in any way that was threatening or competitive, quite the opposite in fact, I could still feel the push-pull dynamic from these women and the artificial pressure that they were under. It made me feel both sad for them and deeply misunderstood. Like many other celebrity fitness instructors, I imagine, I had to navigate a delicate balance. We can't be too attractive or too fit, yet we still have to be impressive. It's a slippery slope filled with emotional insecurities and assumptions flying around, totally unrelated to us. The absolute irony of it all is that my goal was simply to bring a bit of spirituality and wellness into their days and lives. That's it. At the 10-month marker, Jill had now become friendly with enough women in LA that she no longer needed to hide behind my business to feel secure. I was now disposable and just another person for her to gossip about. I doubt that Jill will ever look at herself or her actions, especially if she maintains the same desire for status and wealth as she did back then. I doubt that she'll ever take any accountability for how her selfish acts affected my life and my business, let alone my reputation and business objectives. I, however, decided to grow from this experience, end the partnership, and to move on. I called Jill to tell her that I would buy her out of her shares, that our partnership was just not working. She refused to talk to me about it or reply to any of my emails, completely putting her head in the sand as a show of avoidance. Eventually, after a month or so, she responded asking if she could stay on the board of my company as an advisor. I was hurt by how challenging communication had been with her, therefore I turned it down, to her dismay. And after waiting another month for her to come around, I finally had no choice but to contact her husband to find a solution. In the end, I lost far more than I gained, financially, emotionally, energetically, and reputationally. But I was able to buy her out of my company and get back to where I'd left off before being further used as a pawn in a socialite's ploy for relevancy in the LA social circles. However, this wouldn't be the last time I found myself in such an outrageous situation again. I believe it was Stephen King who contributed this doozy of a quote. "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, and shame on us both." If I ever do get an urge for a tattoo, that quote might just make the top 10 list.